guys, Miss Woolley here. I hope you guys have all enjoyed your spring break. I've enjoyed, you know, sitting and relaxing, but I really miss not being able to go back and see you guys. I hope you all are doing well, and I miss you all very much. Um, so one of the things that I did during this break was put together this lesson for you guys on volcanoes. A lot of your reading last week was on Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii, and so I kind of wanted to just talk about some of the science behind volcanoes and how they're formed and what they're made of, and you know, all of that kind of fun stuff. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is Earth's layers and how Earth is divided into these four main layers. There's the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. Now, the crust is where we live. It's only about 25 miles thick. Like, it's really not thick at all. And it's not solid. It's divided into what's called tectonic plates, which we'll get to in a minute. But what's important about these plates is that they kind of float on the upper mantle. So they're not solid. They're not, you know, something that stays in one spot. They're moving because they're floating on the mantle, which isn't solid either. It's in a constant state of motion. And it's the thickest layer of Earth's layers. And it's also divided into different layers, but we're only going to talk about one main part, which we'll get to in just a second. The outer core is the next layer, and it's responsible for Earth's magnetic field, and it's also constantly moving, but it's not really liquidy. It's a little bit more solid, and it's malleable, kind of like how your putty is, where it can change shape, but it's not liquidy. And then the inner core is solid. And so when it comes to volcanoes and the plate tectonics, which we'll talk about in a second, the main ones that we focus on are the lithosphere and the asthenosphere. The lithosphere is the crust, and then the uppermost solid mantle portion, and the asthenosphere, which is this next outermost layer of the mantle. These are the ones that are kind of responsible for the plate movement and what causes volcanoes and earthquakes and things like that. So with that being said, we'll get into our plate tectonics. I do have a Google PowerPoint for you guys, so that'll be on as well with the video, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So plate tectonics are how the Earth is broken into these different plates that move because of the mantle, the asthenosphere that, you know, is able to move. So the different plates, these are just some of the main ones. There's like the North African plate, the Caribbean plate, the Cocos plate, Nazca plate, South American plate. But our main focus with Mount Vesuvius is the Eurasian plate and the African plate, and how they interact in order to make Mount Vesuvius and that specific area. It's the movement of these. So I think one of the things with the plate tectonics is that there's different ways that these boundaries move, and you get different reactions depending on how the boundaries are getting together. So you can have divergent boundaries. This is where the two plates move apart. So it's like, let's see if I can get this to kind of stand up. So it's like if you have two plates together, they move apart, and there's this kind of trench that forms between them. And these produce rift valleys on land, and they also produce the mid-oceanic ridges that we have in our ocean. The next type of boundary we'll talk about is the transform boundary, which is where two plates slide past each other. So it's so like if you have your hands and you rub them really fast together and it starts getting hot, that's the different friction that builds up between the plates. And with our hands it just makes it hot, but when it becomes to the plates, that friction is released and it produces earthquakes. But the convergent boundary is the one that we're going to be focusing on, because that's the one that forms Mount Vesuvius and the mountain range that it's a part of. So a convergent is when two plates collide, but they don't. I'm having some difficulties, guys. Sorry. Just use my computer for a minute. But they don't collide directly. What happens is one goes over the top and one goes under, and that's called a subduction zone. And that's where one plate goes sideways and down the edge of one plate of the Earth's crust and into the mantle. And when these move back and forth, what happens is, again, there's friction, and magma and everything will come up from between them, and that's kind of how volcanoes are actually formed. So the two plates responsible for Mount Vesuvius are the Eurasian plate and the African plate. So in this one, the Eurasian plate is over the African plate to form this convergent boundary. And part of how Mount Vesuvius was created was through this type of boundary. So it is part of the companion volcanic arc, and it stretches the length of Italy's peninsula. When the two plates collide, the rock from one of the plates is melted, and that's what forms the magma for it to come up. Now, so Mount Vesuvius though has what's called a slab window, which is where part of the plate has kind of detached from the upper one, and it actually produces a different chemical makeup in the rocks than the other rocks that are part of this volcanic chain. So you can always tell, when you have a rock that's come from Mount Vesuvius, is because it's going to have a different makeup than the rest of the rocks around it. And so with Mount Vesuvius and how it erupted, it is as over time the plates move against each other and magma comes to the surface, and when it erupts, it's how it forms different plains and volcanoes. Since volcanoes develop over time. So our next one is how volcanoes are actually formed. So in our case of Mount Vesuvius, it's formed from that subduction boundary where the rocks, one of the rocks melts under the other one to form that magma. And when the plates are moving apart, the magma rises to the surface. So you have this magma chamber, and over time, it starts to slowly rise, and it comes up what is called your main vent, and it's formed around a crater. And then once it goes out the crater, it erupts, it slides down, and eventually like different layers of ash and lava form up, which makes it taller as time goes on. So it's formed by the ash and the magma as it hardens and forms that cone-like shape around the crater. So then as it explodes, it has the ash cloud and then ash and everything like that. Now Mount Vesuvius is a stratovolcano, which means that it's built of layers of lava, ash, and blocks of unmelted stone. There's a bunch of different vents. This is the main vent, but there's other vents inside of it, and that come from the magma chamber. And because there's a bunch of different other vents, like here we have a secondary vent which comes up, but there's more than one. Pressure in the magma chamber just builds up with all the different gases that are under the pressure, and the heat from the magma are dissolved, and when they reach the different vents that come up, all that pressure is released and they just explode. So stratovolcanoes erupt with violence, and aren't always good when they erupt, which is why with stratovolcanoes especially, you can have different parts of the volcano exploding, like when we learned about Mount St. Helens, and now it's shorter than it used to be, is because because there's different vents that come out the side, it can come out the side as well, and so it'll not just explode from the top, it might explode from the sides as well. So that makes it particularly very dangerous and destructive for those who live around it. So we're going to read our Storyworks text that we were reading last week about Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii, and I just kind of want to focus on the volcano aspect that we read. So this is still in your Google Docs, and I'll put it again as well so you guys can read it on your own. So this is the section, the volcano, on page 16. Have you noticed the huge mountain that looms behind the city? That's Mount Vesuvius. You haven't given it much thought. Neither had the people of Pompeii. Why should they? It's just a big mountain, silent and still. Its gentle slopes are covered with trees and vineyards. Except Mount Vesuvius is not just a mountain. It is a volcano. Vesuvius sits on a crack in Earth's crust, the hard rocky layer that covers the surface of our planet like the shell of an egg. Oops, wrong one. This one. Here it is. Here's the crust. The crack in the crust allows molten rock called magma to seep up for miles below. A huge lake of magma boils under Vesuvius, steaming with poisonous gases. But the people of Pompeii don't know what is festering below. How could they? There is not even a word for volcano in Latin, and Vesuvius has been dormant, or asleep, for 1,500 years. But now Vesuvius is waking up. For months, magma has been rising through the center of the volcano, filling it like fiery blood. Pressure is building. An eruption is coming. There have been warning signs over the past few weeks. Talk to the farmers who tend to the vineyards around Vesuvius. They'll tell you that about a terrible stinging smell, like rotten eggs, that wafts from the mountaintop. Is it a warning from the gods? Like the ancient Greeks before them, the Romans believed that gods and goddesses control everything in the world. Even many scientists of the time believed that natural disasters are caused by angry gods. No one understands that the terrible smell is a kind of gas. It's part of the explosive mixture inside the volcano. And there have been other signs of a coming disaster. The extreme heat underground has caused springs to dry up. Goats and sheep are dropping dead on the mountain, their lungs seared by the poisonous gases. Most alarming of all, small earthquakes have erupted throughout the city, a sign of growing strain on the land. All of this is evidence that a huge eruption will come any second. The people of Pompeii should have evacuated weeks ago. If only they understood. But you do. So why are you standing around? Run! Now! Too late. Boom! An explosion seems to shatter the sky. The ground shakes. People fall. Horses and donkeys scream. Birds scatter. A huge column of gray smoke spews from the top of Mount Vesuvius. Except it's not smoke. The heat from the eruption has turned millions of tons of rock into superheated foam. The boiling plume shoots 12 miles into the sky at rocket speeds. When it hits the freezing air above Earth, the rotten milk turns into tiny pebbles called pumice. It spreads through the air and pours down on Pompeii. The pumice falls with painful force. It is mixed with hot ash, which clogs your nose and throat. Many people are fleeing. Go with them. Push your way past the donkey carts. Get through one of the gates of the city. Grab the hand of a little boy who has become separated from his family. Keep moving. The further away you are, the more likely you are to survive. Other people stay behind to guard their homes and businesses. Crime is bad in Pompeii. An abandoned home or shop will almost certainly be looted by thieves. People hide in their homes. They think the strange storm of ash and rock will soon end. They are wrong. The sky turns black. As hours pass, roofs collapse under the weight of the pumice. People get trapped in their homes. Then more terror. As the volcano loses energy, the molten rock and ash mix together to create superheated waves that rush down the mountain at up to 180 miles an hour. This burning, poisonous avalanche is known as a pyroclastic flow. When it hits Pompeii, death for those left behind is almost instant. Over the next hours, millions of tons of ash and rock fall on the city. In the weeks that follow, people search Pompeii for survivors. There are none. In fact, the whole city seems to have vanished. Pompeii is buried under more than 10 feet of rock. Within a few decades, Pompeii is all but forgotten. So, with Pompeii, there were different signs that we saw that the volcano was going to erupt. It didn't just happen. The only problem was the people didn't know what the signs were. So, look back at the reading and tell me, or think about kind of the different signs that there were and different other ones that we have talked about. So, I'll give you guys a minute to think. And then look back at your text. And one of the first things that you can see is the smell. It smells like rotten eggs, which is normally sulfur is a gas that smells like rotten eggs, and it's very poisonous. And so that's also part of the mixture that's in a volcano, and that is one of the gases that was causing the different animals to die from inhaling that bad gas. Some other things you might have noticed are the heat that's coming from the ground. So the water is drying up. Animals are dying. There's small earthquakes. So there are warning signs before the volcano erupted. So what would you think? So if you know what these signs are now, what would you do if you saw them coming? What would you tell the people of Pompeii? Would you try to get them to run? Would you try to get them to escape? Or would you just think about escaping yourself? It's just something to, think about as we're talking more about volcanoes. So what are some of the other things that you notice about this particular volcano? You guys can look back under the title called A Boiling Avalanche and see some of the things that it talks about. So again, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to kind of look back and think about the answer before I discuss it. All right, so One of the things that you first probably noticed was the gray smoke or the ash that erupts from the volcano. That is when it shoots it 12 miles into the sky. And what was the name of the melted rock as it meets that freezing earth? It's called pumice. And that's one of the dangerous things that really hurt Pompeii, was because it has such painful force, and it caused a lot of destruction because it would build up in layers on people's homes and stuff like that, and cause it to cause the roofs to collapse. And with that, there's also lots of ash, which causes people not to be able to breathe. And then what the next really dangerous thing that happens is what's called the pyroclastic flow, which was that avalanche of lava just flowing super quick down the mountain, 180 miles an hour. We're not even allowed to drive that fast. That's almost twice, definitely about twice how fast we're even allowed to drive. So if that's coming from that quickly, there's no way that you're going to be able to outrun it and escape. So that is also what caused lots of people to be buried and to die from this volcano that erupted. And then it was buried for nearly 1,700 years and was kind of discovered by accident. So now that we've done all of that, I do have a little bit of an activity, and we're going to have the volcano erupt. So one of the things that we have is your volcano. I made mine from a Gatorade bottle. That's my crater. And then the sides are formed with painted cardboard and tape. So the shape itself is relatively easy to create. And then here's what else we need to actually make the volcano erupt. So you need a couple of squirts of dish soap, which I'm going to pour here into the crater. And then you need a cup of cold water, which I have here as well. Well, not a full cup, it's like a half a cup. Vinegar. And some food coloring. Now, this is the stuff that it's not going to erupt yet, don't worry. What's going to cause it to erupt is baking soda and water. So I want you guys to look at that and see why. See why vinegar and baking soda cause volcano, will cause this to erupt. I know the answer. I want to see if you guys do. So after you watch this, we'll talk about it on the Google chat and see what you guys find out. All right, so before we actually do the eruption, some things for you guys to just kind of think about. Think about how do you think it's going to erupt? Do you guys think it's going to shoot up really high and you're going to get that, that really big, lava looking, fountain? Do you think it's going to come up slowly? Do you think it'll be kind of more just like a slow run, like with the Shield volcano? What do you guys think? Just, think about it before we have it. Think about, and then while you're watching it, think about kind of the different parts of the volcano that you'll see. See if you, see that pyroclastic flow or the pumice or and you maybe even an ash cloud. I don't know. Just think about it. And then see how it affects the volcano after we do the explosion. See kind of if it looks different, what happens that's different. And yeah, just some things for you guys to think about right before we do it. So we're gonna bring this outside because it's gonna make a mess in the house. So I gotta make sure to bring my baking soda and my water because that's really important, because without that, our volcano is going nowhere. So we're just gonna step right out here. It's a little windy today. Alrighty. So, moment of truth. Think about in your mind what's going to happen, what it's going to do, and ready or not.
Not.
The cameraman has to get ready. All right, ready or not?
Ready.
All right, here it goes. Let's see. Ah! And there goes Pompeii. All right. So what did you guys think? What are some things that you noticed about the volcano as it erupted? What do you notice about it now, other than the fact that it's swimming? What are some things that you thought were going to happen that didn't happen, or that happened that you didn't think would? So you guys just think about it. And yeah, so this is our lesson on volcanoes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. So I miss you guys. I hope you all are doing well. And if you have any questions, then you can put them on Google Chat, and I'll see you guys this week. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed your break. Have a good day, guys. Bye.